Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the United States of a Movie Podcast. We're the movie podcast that makes every Monday a fun day as we get together and we talk movies, but we have a purpose here at the United States of a Movie because we are the podcast that is trying to find just one movie to define each state in these United States. It's a tricky one. It's a tricky question. It's 50 tricky questions, and we've already completed one full trip around America. We're currently on our second trip, and this week we are stopping in at the Mile High City, at the state of Colorado. We had a lot of fun last year with Colorado. We ended up with a pretty sort of like a movie that I like. It's very close to my heart. 1980s Red Dawn, Patrick Swayze, Charlie Sheen. You know, it's all like Red Scare and Cold War, and it wasn't in any way shot in Colorado, right, but it's still one.
And you're, just to clarify, you're very pro-Russia for this movie. That was your take on
yeah,
that?
That was 100% my take. I believe in the sequel that I've been pitching, it's like we're going to invade Canada and Greenland and maybe Mexico. So, you know, honestly, you know,
I was going to say, like, once those become states, we're going to have to extend our season.
That's right. We're going to have to do special episodes.
We'll finally get to watch the movie Greenland with Gerard Butler.
That movie is way more depressing than you think it's going to be. Have you guys seen Greenland? Mm-hmm. And they're talking about making a sequel as well. They basically made Greenland, and the same year as they made, what was it? Oh, Geostorm? Yeah,
it's more or less like, a very similar disaster film, right?
And they are completely the opposite movie. Yeah. But as always, I am digressing, and we've already got off subject. So why don't I try and wrangle us back and introduce the guys that are on this podcast with me, as always, my two amazing co-hosts who love movies just as much as me, if not more. First of all, Ryan Sandler, buddy, welcome back to the show.
It's great to be here. This was a very interesting week for some of these movies.
Interesting is definitely the word. Yeah. It was a pretty special week of movies. I can't wait to get into this, but before we do that, we have to welcome back, as always, our buddy Will Hirsch, who is sitting currently in the middle of a smoke-filled video store in the center of Los Angeles. First questions first, Will, are you okay, and how are things in Los Angeles?
I'll answer the last one first. Terrible, but I am okay.
Okay.
Luckily, where I'm at is south of like downtown, so we're in a good spot. But it's bad. I know a lot of friends who have evacuated. We're waiting to hear if one person lost their house or not. We don't know yet. It's scary. It's bad. And to people out there who are not from LA, I want to kind of reiterate that not everyone who lives in Los Angeles is a multimillionaire. A lot of people who live in the places that have now been wiped out, they're just regular people. Yeah. They're not uber wealthy. It's scary. It's sad. But let's talk about two movies that are also those.
And to clarify, your friend that you're waiting to hear back from is James Woods.
Yeah, we don't. Who knows? Jimmy, Jimmy Woods.
Piece of candy.
I do also want to double check that is Achilles, right? Achilles, our little mascot
Achilles.
dog?
Yeah, Achilles next door. He's chilling. He's listening to classical Mexican ballads. He's living the best life.
All right, as long as the dog's okay,
there is light
okay.
at the end of the tunnel. Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Well, look. From
the nation can sleep tonight. So.
Will is basically in the Universal Studios live action ride of Dante's Peak
slash backdraft
slash volcano. Yeah.
Slash volcano. Where's Tommy Lee Jones? But honestly, as a movie podcast that would have nothing to do if it wasn't for Hollywood. We're definitely thinking about LA and everybody right now. But I tell you what, let's talk about some of the movies that maybe want to burn down Hollywood after this week. Because like I said, we went to the state of Colorado, trying to take down Red Dawn. And last week, you guys, I mean, we brought one movie to the table that I saw a lot during the 90s and haven't seen for 30 years, which is Things to Do in Denver When You're Dead. But it was the other movie that I'd only ever really heard as a joke from Jay and Silent Bob.
Yeah. And the people who use that line have never seen this movie.
No.
I assure you. The people walking up to Ben Affleck saying, "You were the bomb in Phantoms, yo," have never seen Phantoms.
Yeah, no. But they do like to smoke weed and watch Jay and Silent Bob movies. But yeah, no, Phantoms. Never heard of this movie. Not even slightly heard of this movie.
Really? Oh.
And then when I saw the poster, it was weird. I'm looking at the poster and it was giving me these vibes of I feel like maybe I've seen this movie.
X-Files.
Yes, but then I was looking through some of the interesting trivia on this movie, and it turns out that movie poster is put together by cutting two of the actresses' heads and placing them over Neve Campbell and somebody else's head from the Scream poster. Liev Schreiber is a reverse of him from the second Scream, and was it Ben Affleck is from a Chasing Amy promo. So it was because I realized I'd seen this poster before, but they've just sort of put other people's heads on it. And if that
AI could do that,
yeah, right. But I tell you what, if that doesn't kind of boil down the approach to this movie, I honestly don't know what else does.
I can't wait to talk about it because I was thinking that too. I remember seeing this movie. I probably haven't watched it in 20 plus years or whenever it came out. And I remember it being landing kind of like Ollie says, like a wet fart. It just it seemed so cool, and it was just not. It's just watching it now with adult eyes. You're oh, this is just a bad movie.
Well, that's that's exactly it. I was just talking with Mrs. right before I came up to do the podcast, and she's like, "Oh, so what movies did you watch?" And I was like,
"Well, I was a huge Peter O'Toole fan."
Yeah, but that's the thing is because I said I watched Phantoms, and she goes, "What?" And I go, I know, but then I started listing the cast: Ben Affleck, Liev Schreiber, Rose McGowan, Peter O'Toole, and she's like, "What?" I'm like, "Yeah." She goes, "How is it? Terrible. It is
a dog from Air Bud."
Yeah.
So I honestly, I just want to jump straight in and to talk about this movie because
go first. Let's go.
Because Will, you often you've mentioned Dean Koontz a lot on the pod. I think you've got your own sort of perceptions and opinions on Dean Koontz. So this is a Dean Koontz adaptation of a Dean Koontz novel from the 80s that tells the story of two sisters, for some reason, turning up in the town of Snowfield, Colorado. And then everything goes wrong immediately. But this movie doesn't waste any time. It gives us 2 minutes maximum character development of two sisters in a car, and then the movie just starts.
Which is more than enough. You get the dynamic of both of them immediately, and I love that the handheld corded car phone. That was a nice. I was like, wow, they must have money. That's how that was my first thought.
These are rich sisters. Yeah,
you get that she's from LA, and all right.
And apparently the other sister works as a doctor in this small town of Colorado. But as soon as we turn up, I tell you one thing, and it's I'm going to give a lot of compliment about this, but excellent location control.
Yeah.
Because this place was shot on location at a small town, Georgetown or something like that, in Colorado. But as the movie starts, it does have the unsettling quality of the first sort of 15 minutes of 28 days later.
I was just going to say that. Yeah, it's how did they clear out all of these people to shoot some of these scenes?
Because it was off season, so there was only 400 people there, so they probably just put them in the community center and fed them some tacos. But that was one thing that I will say, with this movie, and Things to Do in Denver When You're Dead, they are both using Colorado, Denver, the natural environment, the real places for real. So they've got a very sort of strong, no, they're doing it for real. But so both of you were aware of this movie and both of you had seen it before.
Yeah.
What are your memories? Will, if you remembered this movie, were you this is a good movie, it's a bad movie, it's a weird movie? What was your memory of it before you rewatched it?
So I saw this movie because of the line in Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. I was like, what is Phantoms? And I went to watch it. I'm pretty sure I got the VHS. And I watched it. And I remember at the time thinking, I didn't love it. But at the time, so I was in high school. And I remember thinking, it's fine. I really liked the first, 20 minutes more than I liked the rest of the movie, to the point to where watching it again, I did not remember. I was like, wait, what is the thing that happens?
Yeah,
I remembered the beginning.
Yeah.
And I was like, the beginning is cool where it's a deserted town. And immediately I remember at the time being like, oh, this is kind of like a Roanoke thing, where everybody's gone and they're trying to.
I think they even mentioned, the scientist even mentions that disappearance in the film. Along with a bunch of other crazy fucking like the Mayans and stuff.
And there is exactly one shot in this movie where I'm like, ooh, that is cool. But then the rest of the movie, I don't remember. Fantastic. Starts with unit production manager, and I'm like,
I'm on board with you. Like, I distinctly remember, like, I had this memory of there being some like insane twist in this. Like, I thought Rose McGowan,
right?
I thought I remembered Rose McGowan's character like being evil or something, and that really never comes up. So I must have been thinking of a different.
Actually, I mean, you say that, but the second last note that I have for this movie is, "Ooh, is there going to be a Rose McGowan twist?" Nope.
No. Yeah.
No. If you think this movie's going to do anything interesting at any point, you're going to be very disappointed.
It's funny that I have this keystone memory of some kind of twisty thing happening, but
it's a very cool opening 20 minutes, and but I mean very cool and like, oh, I'm interested.
It's very intriguing for sure. But and it's shot like a straight up horror film.
Then it kind of whizzes down its pants like pretty.
I would say it's shot kind of like a shitty X-Files. It's kind of how, like, this is a shit X-Files episode as a movie. So it's directed, like, I knew the name Joe Chappelle. I'm like, I know that name, and it's because he was director and one of the executive producers of The Wire, which is a show I've watched a couple of times, so I was familiar with it. And then of course I'm familiar with all of these names as well. And the fact is, like, it's a 1998 movie. I'm like, how? It obviously must have never crossed the pond. I don't think like this is one of those ones that people were showing in the UK, but
I don't think it did very well in the theaters out here.
It did not. So no. It was a sort of $16 million movie that made about $5 million. But it's like it's got a review average on the Tomatometer of 9%, which makes,
it's all from Dean Koontz. And I should preface this by saying, if you're not familiar, Dean Koontz is an author, like a very prolific Stephen King type of author, but I'm pretty sure you can only find his books at airports.
Yeah. I see him at airports all the time. And that's honestly what I said, like, 3/4 of the way through the movie. It says, I said, where's John Carpenter and where's Stephen King with a bunch of cocaine when you need them?
Yeah. Because I don't even think that could have saved this movie. It's just one of those things. It's like, once you get to the reveal of the creature, it's so uninteresting in the context of this that you're just like,
It's weird. I mean, like, I put a name for this movie as In the Mouth of Sadness, because I'm just so sad. I'm so fucking bored watching this movie.
I watched half of this movie through my phone.
Yeah.
I would perk up anytime Ben Affleck would deliver his exposition dump of like
Sheriff exposition.
I said, in the text thread, every line of dialogue he has starts with, so what you're saying is, or
so you're telling me
to tell me, it's just, and then launches into this like scientific. So you're saying when you rearrange these DNA molecules, you get the goo, you inject it into the thing. All right.
And every Peter O'Toole reaction is it seemed like he's like, I can't believe I gotta share the screen with this guy and say this dialogue. Like, if Peter O'Toole looks so frustrated to be here, he's literally sitting there being like, I was in Lawrence of Arabia,
right.
I worked with Audrey Hepburn. What the hell am I doing here?
What a fascinating get instead of just no offense, Ollie, generic British sounding person. Like, to get Peter O'Toole.
Could have got Peter Cushing.
Yes. Literally.
Alec Guinness.
Like any one of four people.
I will say that Peter O'Toole is good in this movie.
So good.
Like, thing is, he is
a different movie.
Yes. And what a fucking weird... I mean, the thing is... All right, I'm going to back it up, audience, very quickly. Because I'm going to assume, like most people on Earth, you've never seen this movie. Okay, so like I said, these two sisters, they turn up in Colorado. Everything's gone wrong. People are missing. People are dead. They end up sort of hooking up like randomly with three sort of sheriff's deputies, which is Liev Schreiber, Nicky Katt, and Ben Affleck. Ben Affleck being the Harvard graduate, former FBI agent who's now a sheriff and is also 12 years old.
But he's got my favorite backstory. It was accidentally shot a kid holding a water gun.
Yeah, that was great. I did like that part, because at the end of the movie, he's like, I really had to shoot this kid. I really had to. That's the most accurate part of the movie.
Right. Yeah.
But like, it goes immediately fucking nuts. Like, so it's like I said, I get what Will's saying. Is it toys with an interesting premise in the first 20 minutes. You don't know what's going on. You turn up and you find some decapitated heads. You find a couple of hands that are there. But immediately, like one of my
are they like?
Yeah,
but the hands are.
There's a whole lot of like
cut off holding the like the roller.
Yeah, that was
like,
funny.
Come on.
There's like an obscene amount of doors that are locked from the inside with no windows.
Yeah, okay. and it's like it's just the thing is. Well, the thing is, and I asked myself this question right at the beginning, and then halfway through the movie, in the end, I'm like, why is none of this scary?
Right.
I mean, the pieces are there. Yeah. I mean, there's the decapitated heads, and there's no tension. Yeah. I feel like, and I know Ryan, you said, they had enough character development, but I feel like I didn't know anyone enough to give a shit about them. So
right.
so like, because
Ben Affleck shot a kid. What more do you need? I'm sorry.
Right. Well, we only get that 45 minutes in, but like it's right at the beginning. Within the first 5 minutes, we've got dead woman, dead phone, dead car. Now we're trapped, and then we've got the sheriffs, and then it's almost like part of me was thinking that it was going to go kind of like Dawn of the Dead, that now you've got these 3 men, 2 girls, and you've got the men with guns, that maybe it's going to be, but no, we don't need to mess with any of that.
I mean, you kind of get that with Liev Schreiber's character, and he's a bit of an oddball.
Well, is he? Because there you go.
No.
I think he was perfectly normal and fine. What does everybody think he's weird?
That's not what I mean, because I've got in capitals, I guess, what's with Liev? Like, question mark. Yeah, like sort of sexually touching the dead old woman.
Well, I mean, opportunity presents itself.
And then he's like, what do you want? Do you guys want to see something? So, right, but then
want to see a dead body. Yeah.
Right, but skip forward to the tag.
How is this guy a cop? Never mind.
No. But skip forward. Yeah. Skip forward to the tag at the end. What are we supposed to infer from this? Is it he was bad always? He's just a bad person? Is he?
Another thing I thought I misremembered that was like he was Ben Affleck's brother for some reason. Like I feel like I remembered a different version of this film.
So it's just making wild, big, strange choices. And at times it's jarring in the way that it suddenly cuts. Like the way that it's like we're in Colorado and suddenly we cut to worldwide news. We get an establishing shot of San Francisco. We get like 2 cops, one of whom I recognize from the X-Files or something like that. And they go in and they find the quirky British journalist who writes for the nonsense newspaper, who's still got a typewriter and a classical tea set on his desk in 1990.
Because he's British.
Yeah,
we don't know if the audience is clear.
Yeah. Just in case.
Yeah. Was that triggering for you? Is that what you're saying?
And he kills everything a biscuit. But it was just like, it was just so jarring because... So basically, again, audience, I'm going to try and explain this movie, but it doesn't make any fucking sense because at some point they find in a locked room, it's got a name, which is Peter O'Toole's character, which is Timothy Flight, so Flight, and it's talking about the ancient enemy. And so much like an X-Files episode, they've got on the radio, and apparently everyone in the government is like, we should take this at face value. Somebody get me that kook journalist, and then let's set up the same premise as Sphere without going underwater. And, because suddenly the government's there, suddenly the army's there. Now they've got the big suits on.
You get that great scene when shit's gone down and Ben Affleck is on the radio calling and he's like, basically he's doing his "get me everyone" line.
Yeah.
And they're just like, yeah, all right, and they do. They fucking send everyone.
Well, that's the thing. I was confused because the radio is like breaking up and they don't seem to really be listening. And then it cuts to they've taken every single word that he said as gospel, and they are now mobilizing.
Oh, he shot a kid, so I mean, you're gonna listen. Motivations.
But like the way it comes down to it is the theory of it all is that this British guy, Peter O'Toole, has sort of thought about this sort of thing called the ancient enemy, which is chaos in the flesh. And he's explaining why this is what's wiped out the Mayans, the Roanoke Island colonists, a bunch of Chinese soldiers outside Nanjing. And everyone's just like, okay, this guy knows what's up. Bring him out, put him in a suit, and let's go and investigate. And I'm like,
it boils down to it's just a bunch of ancient goo that's in the dirt.
Well...
Right?
Yes, it turns out that it's an amoebic-based life form that's been around for, they say it could have wiped out the dinosaurs.
That's why I asked. Yeah.
Anything that it absorbs, it then takes its memories, and so then it
thinks it's God.
It's given itself an ego and thinks itself's God, and oh no, I've gone blind. You know what I mean? It's just like this movie. What?
I was saying it's too many things. It would have just been better to be like a species type creature or some kind of monster that grounds this movie instead of being like, oh, we're going to be super smart about this, and it's going to be some ancient goo that takes over and can manipulate, and it's omnipotent.
It's basically the same story as like The Faculty. You remember that Robert Rodriguez movie,
much
right?
better movie.
Exactly.
Yeah, way better.
But it's doing the same thing, which is like whatever the thing is, it's creating clones, which in this case are the phantoms, which have rules that are never explained.
Yeah, because
they can die and not die. They are like
they can transfer
Lovecraftian beings and not.
Yeah.
Right. This was kind of my issue with the whole movie, which was like, at no point am I ever clear of like what is the threat. It's like not until we get into the science tank do we get like an explanation of what this thing is. But the entire time you're like, okay, at first you're like, maybe it's going to be zombies, but then you're like, no, it's like moth creatures that eat people's faces.
I don't even think that's it. Yeah,
yeah.
Right. My favorite scene in the movie though is
That's
when
right.
the moth creature bashes through the window and it turns into a face hugger, and they just unload like the scene in Predator. And they're just firing at one window at one tiny thing.
Lee Schreiber reloads and then unloads again. You're just like,
and then it sucks his face off and his brain. It's like it's very like Starship Troopers.
Like is that how they take over? Like it's unclear.
Ryan, if you're asking questions and you're hoping for fucking answers, you're not getting them.
No, I'm just having this conversation. Like, speculating wildly. Like, how does any of this shit fucking work?
Yeah, that was my favorite shot of the movie is when you see like the mountains and like the sun is going down, and so it's like the shot of the mountain tops at dusk, and then like the last one is like a light comes over and you realize, oh, it's not mountains, it's what's left of his skull and his face. And it's like that bloody facing. I'm like, oh, that's a cool shot, and that is the only time this movie is interesting. Yeah. Like, so that's it. They had one cool shot, and that's it.
And you've got Nicky Cat, who's barely in this movie.
Yeah, I do like. He gets taken out to the point that it leaves his shoes behind and his pistol's spinning. I'm like, I quite like that. It's like, oh man, he did.
Yes, like real Looney Tunes.
What? He's just like swooped off screen, and it's like a cartoon. It's ridiculous.
But I like that Will said like a few minutes ago. You guys, it's not really it's not really understanding until it's explained later in the sciencey thing. And I go, explained. Yeah. It's the musings of a potentially psychotic, drunk old Englishman.
Yeah, right.
Who repeated back by Ben Affleck, who's like, "Wait a minute, Doc. What you're trying to say is
he's basically
he has the Ice-T role like in Law and Order SVU. You mean to tell me that this is an alien goo?
But he comes up with the solution to stop it, which is like this self-replicating like a virus, right?
Well, yeah, we do get. Okay. So
but you don't get that cool '90s style like really bad computer CGI thing where that explains it to you like a Resident Evil or something. Like that.
It's just honestly, I think funny you should say that. Wasn't one of the inspirations for this like Resident Evil or one of those old games or something like that. But anyway, it's like for me is that it's much like nothing really makes sense because, like I said, we're introduced to Peter O'Toole's character and he's using a typewriter, and then later on, skipping ahead, there is this lab that is also a tank that is also there that the military has got.
He's not a fucking scientist, right?
And he's just knows he's typing on the computer and he goes, and he's just a throwaway line. He goes, oh, they gave me a tour on the way over. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, I guess that makes sense now. And then he's like, you know what? That bacteria over there and that specific thing.
Like, they just have this catalog of these bacteria, and he's like, I've got this one. It might not work.
Yeah.
And then Affleck's like, well, how are you going to inject it?
And I do like, because we talk about setups and payoffs, right? We talked about this on the show before, especially like RRR, one of the greatest movies that has set up payoffs ever, is that they give us that bacteria 3 minutes after they've established that locker exists, because it starts shaking around and it goes, specifically, even there's an announcement that comes over going, dangerous vials locker open.
Red herring unlocked.
Yeah, and then Ben Affleck's like standing in front of it, and I'm like, well, that's a bit weird. And then 3 minutes later, it's the MacGuffin to fix everything. And I'm like, well, wow, what great writing, Dean Koontz. Good for you, bro.
What was Ben Affleck's career choice in Harvard? Was he a scientist? Did he know? I forget, honestly.
And I think that's the only way to explain, like he's smart, right? That's his character. He's like, he figures shit out because he went to Harvard and he was in the FBI, and then he's a child murderer and now he hides in Colorado.
The smartest thing you can be. Yeah.
But it's like, that's it. Because I just love it because it just seems to be like Dean Koontz is like, I know how to explain it. Harvard.
Yeah.
Done.
I do love that I was thinking about this, like that aspect of if you're, and we'll take this for granted, but if you're having a rough time and you live in LA, just go to Colorado. That's what everyone like. That's the type of movie this is. Like, where else could we set this? Well, we can't set it in LA. We can't set it in New York, Chicago. Like, we'll do it in Colorado.
I like the aspect where, like, so the older sister, Joanna Going, she's in Colorado and they live in a mountain town, and she's there with like, you know, a shotgun trying to load it like Zoolander's trying to use a computer. Yeah. And Rose McGowan takes it and loads it like a pro, and she goes, there's some good things to living in LA. Right. You know what I mean? I'm like,
well, I mean, what? Most people don't realize we all do take shotgun loading lessons the moment we move here.
Yeah.
It's mandatory. Newsom makes you do it. He stands there, watches you do it. So.
Well, don't forget, this is, I suppose, now I think about it, it is a 1998 movie, and remember, every comment or everything to do with Los Angeles in the 90s was how it was a war zone. You know, if it's not just shootouts in Compton, if it's not like Demolition Man talking about the future of 1997, you know what I mean? And so it's like, all right, if LA, hell zone, you know, everyone knows how to use a weapon.
You gotta send a phantom to catch a phantom. Right. But you're right. You're right.
Yeah. I mean, another thing that I was thinking, it felt like, is like, it feels like a straight to DVD ripoff of like Stranger Things. You know, it's a little bit Stranger Things season. There's even a part where I was thinking this, like Rose McGowan goes, there's some Stranger Things going on here. And I go, yeah, I know. It's just everything about this is just, it's not working. It's I could name in every single case of every reference that it's doing a movie that's doing it better, be it Sphere, be it, you know, like all these other ones that I've been talking about.
Like The Mist, The Thing, like all of those like have the same type of
The Thing, exactly. Yeah. At one point it's trying to be The Thing. At one point it's trying to be Sphere. At one point it's trying to be all of these other movies, and it's failing at it.
It's doing none of them well. That's the problem.
No.
You know? Yeah. And I can't speak, like if you're out there and you're the one person that read Dean Koontz's Phantoms, let us know how wrong we are.
Yeah, maybe it's a great book.
I am weirdly intrigued. Like, I've never once read a Dean Koontz book. I'm just like, maybe I should start.
I know Dean Koontz exclusively as the guy whose books are next to Stephen King in every bookstore. That is the extent of my knowledge of that guy.
I think, what did I say when I was getting ready to watch this? I said, I'm getting ready to watch Garth Marenghi's Phantoms.
Yeah. Right. That's actually...
Which, honestly, if they would have leaned into that...
That would have been better.
If they'd gone a bit more of the comedy angle, I think it could have worked. Because it's not doing the fear angle. It's not doing the scare angle. There is maybe one point where I think it was a character's like digging around in the sink, like the plug hole, right? Where just... Even for just... I go, they got me to a 5 out of 10 on a bit of tension finally in this movie. Yeah. And then, spoiler alert, nothing happened in that moment. I mean, it's never fully explained about how does the subway, the underground and the drainage. And
it leads you to think that, these things can transfer through the plumbing or something.
Yeah, or through the air. Or can they? Because they'll fucking magically appear, magically disappear. There'll be a dead body right there. Then it's not there. There'll be a hand there that wasn't there a second ago. And it's like, the frustration, I think, Will, like you were saying, is none of the rules are ever explained or ever make sense. Right. Ever.
Yeah.
They contradict is even worse. Like,
yeah, and it just feels like a grab bag from beginning to end. Just like Koontz couldn't settle on anything. It's very frustrating to watch in that sense. And it really says something when I could think of an episode of Supernatural that was also based on like the Roanoke event, which is 1,000 times better than this. It is all about a town where people are just disappearing and going away. And at the end, there's no explanation. The entire town just disappears. It's actually unsettling, and you're like, what happened? And the show's like, we're not going to tell you. Anyway, moving on.
You couldn't do that in movies in the 90s, though. Like, it had to be a very, like... I wonder if the screenwriter of this, I don't know if it was Dean Koontz, but it feels like this... Oh, he did? Okay, I was going to say, it feels like someone read his book on a plane, but the plane landed before he could finish it, and he's like, I got it. It just did the rest from memory.
Science tank, let's go.
Well, I'll tell you what, this movie, it says something to the fact that I would consider Maximum Overdrive to be 5 times better than this fucking movie.
Yeah.
It made me miss Maximum Overdrive. That's how bad this movie is.
Though this movie does have some really cool, like, practical effects and iconography, like the science the guys wearing the science garb with their face helmets. Like there's a scene where the dog comes into the church and it shoots out tentacles because fine, okay, sure.
Yep.
Like the shots of those masks with the glass hole and it's just black over them. Like that's
okay, but
that's cool.
Yes, but that's all ripped off from other movies. You know, those things with the big. That's Outbreak from '95. It's the thing bursting out is the thing. You know what I mean? It's like anything that it's doing that is even remotely interesting is ripped off from another movie, and it's doing it worse. Sorry, I jumped in on you.
Oh no! Or you see it like see it done in something later, like to much better effect. Like I was thinking when you see like the holes and then you don't see their faces in the suits. I'm like, that's cool. But then like a second later, you do see their faces and they look totally fine. And it's like,
it's like the goo is liquid and it drops down so they can talk. And then the guy spits out a goo gecko. Like, I don't know.
Sometimes they melt, sometimes they come back. You know, Liev Schreiber has his face sucked off and then he has his face later. You know,
one of the scientists spits out the gecko that turns into goo that Peter O'Toole then utilizes to make the antidote. I think that's the order of operations there. Yeah. Like tell everyone tell your story, tell everyone what you saw here. I don't know why they did that voice, but
right. Yeah.
At one point, like I was, because we had the scary toilet, scene and all this kind of.
That should have been the name of the movie, Scary Toilet.
Well,
that's the original title to Dreamcatcher.
Well, I wondered if we were going to be dealing with that like shit demon from Dogma. You know what I mean? It's like if we were going to be
Dreamcatcher.
From Dreamcatcher.
Oh no, that's not the shit demons. That was the shit weasels or whatever they were called. They would climb up your bum. Yeah. But like, I mean, there was so much about this movie that just I didn't like, enjoy, or make sense. I mean, like there was a bit that did make me laugh though was the dog. So we have the dog that turns up very thing, then it goes very thing. You know what I mean? As in suddenly it's just taking people out. But it's the bit in the church where there's the three scientists in their outbreak garb, their Prometheus garb, their whatever garb. You've seen it in every movie ever. And there's a soldier in there with a big old weapon. And this dog comes in and then murders all of the scientists. And then the soldier's like, maybe I should shoot the dog. And I'm like, bro, why didn't you shoot the transforming dog the second it started transforming? Even after the first guy's
first day on the job.
He still had 15 seconds to save everybody else, and he watches them all die, and then he's like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to shoot the dog.
Yeah.
What was that gun, by the way? That looked like it came from Doom. It was the most insane gun I've ever seen in my life.
I think it's a very specific sight on the top. I think that might have been an infrared sight. Of some kind, but it's and then I'd seen those before, but I know
massive.
It was ridiculous. Yeah, it probably cost about $8 million to do that site. The one point I did put is like the possession bits are cool. That's the only like positive note that I have in it is that when you sort of another thing that I kind of like that was also kind of stupid is the way that like it was making me think of that third Edgar Wright movie, The World's End. You know, how it's the same vibe. The town's been taken over and it's body snatchers, but it's the way they kind of like open their mouths and they scream. In this one, it's like they don't talk when they're possessed. They just open their mouth, and it's like
and just vocalizes.
It was also making me think about Key and Peele, where it's like the East versus West Bowl, and one of the guys just he opens his mouth and it's just construction noises.
Oh yeah.
But it's like and then it's like okay. So it can manifest anything or any monster that anyone's ever imagined. And so I'm like, okay, so the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man, is that now a theory? Right. So now we're ripping off, Ghostbusters and everything else in between, but it never really does that. It's just an amorphous blob of I am God.
Yeah.
But also not only is it like a blob that thinks it's either the god or devil or whatever it thinks it is. Also, apparently, Liev Schreiber's personality perfectly matches with the monster because his character, even when he comes back as a thing,
exactly
monster,
the same,
exact same guy. Yeah. He has no difference in his personality.
The perfect host.
Yeah. It's just like those two guy and Goop met and they were like, we get each other instantly. This is great.
There's no like allusion to why his character is off in that way. It's just, he's that weirdo in this movie. Like, why does he work for the sheriff's department? Like, what's his fucking deal?
Why would you bring him along?
Strangely, the most interesting character in this movie.
Yeah, but unexplained. He's just a weird mincing nonce. You know what I mean? He's just a weirdo in every. But like, it never explained. But then again, he was also in Sphere, so he's sphering.
I was just saying,
He's sphering all over again. And then you had Ben Affleck and Nicky Cat. They were in Dazed and Confused.
Right.
And then it was also there was another pair as well. Oh yeah, it's Liev Schreiber and Ben Affleck are both in The Sum of All Fears.
Yeah.
As well. So there's lots
I
of.
thought you were going to say Daredevil.
Are they in Daredevil as well? But yeah, I mean, like, it's just I've got actually good monster effect. There was some bits later on where the thing would wrap around or grab on where I'm like, okay, all right, that doesn't look so bad. You know, it's not bad. But that's what I mean is that I was scraping the bottom of the barrel to try and find anything positive to say about
I wish it was like if this movie almost like a chopping mall type of situation where it was shot in like the mid to late 80s and it was just swing for the fences schlocky genre film. Instead it takes itself, I think, too seriously.
It's weirdly, it's a wrong sort of director for the project, and it's oddly enough it's that budget level where it's too high budget for it to get like really fun and like chopping mall-esque. It's also too low budget for anything to be effective. It's that weird, like, this either needed to be like $30 million or it needed to be like $2 million.
Yeah.
And either one would have gave us a better movie.
Maybe.
Well, I guess also a different director too.
I'm saying like let's let Dean Koontz direct this thing. His first.
Well, I mean, that's what I was kind of. Honestly, if I was going to theorize, as to what's going on, is that it is because you were saying taking it too seriously. It's because it's Dean Koontz. He's adapted the screenplay, right? So he's the writer. So he's no doubt on set. You know what I mean? It's just it's you've got the effect of having the author there, the guy that wrote it. So now you got to, as a director, it's like you got to. The answer to your questions are right there. So what does this mean? So what would she be doing? Or it's just I think it's a guy I just think it's a guy that doesn't understand movies because it doesn't feel like a movie
or books
or plot.
And we'll never know if he writes good books. I
think it's safe to say that this is the movie that turned Ben Affleck into a director.
He's like, I gotta take control because this is going nowhere.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean, like, I was trying to find even like interesting and weird sort of facts, about the movie. So here you go. Yeah. So cinematic influences include Silent Hill.
Okay.
But hang on a second. Categorically, one of the chief cinematic influences. Oh, sorry. I was about to say the days. Silent Hill, the game, was influenced by this movie. Okay. But I can see that. But yeah, the only sort of interesting thing that I found from it was that Rose McGowan and Peter O'Toole became best mates.
Became a couple.
Actually, there was one point where he did joke about, like, Peter O'Toole says, let's run away together and start a scandal. But no, apparently they became very close friends. He invited her to his Hollywood star, sort of outside the man's Chinese theater kind of thing.
You could probably put her white puffy jacket in the Smithsonian. It's like the only thing I remember from this movie is she has this white like North Face puffy jacket.
I think in every way it's kind of like it's just a missed opportunity. It's not doing anything original, but they've got a great cast. They've got a good location that they are using, as in they're using it and they're using that town and they're using the main hotel, which they've turned into that bakery, and it's lots of interiors and exteriors, but they shot it all there. You know what I mean? It's like it's they're using it, and I'm like, okay, cool.
It does have. I hate to say it, but it does have a very like Colorado feel to it.
It does. I mean, there's a couple of shots, and there's a good, like I say good, but there's shots where we're looking down the town, and it's at night, and we had the sort of the Bell 212 go. You got the helicopter going over, and you got all the lights flashing on and off. I'm like, okay, but even then, like I said. In the Mouth of Madness did it better, while doing it worse. But it's because it's swing. It's like you guys were saying.
Yeah.
John Carpenter and genre, and we're just swinging for the fences. Let's go fucking nuts. Yeah. Whereas this one never fully commits to any of it, and it's just
it's so normie in its approach, and it's so afraid to like you know, like when you think back to The Thing and the dog splitting open, it's such a gory, like horrifying scene. And this one, it's kind of splitting open, but it's like black goo, and it's just not effect.
It's too hard to see what's going on too.
Yeah,
it's like you see that dog's face open like a fucking banana peel. In this, it's just like it's a piece of fur and something like a hand pops out of the bag.
It's like a mogwai that's got wet and it's just multiplying. Yes. It's like a close up kind of shit.
It's in the movie.
I was just reading that Peter Iliff, he wrote the original. He helped write the original Point Break and stuff like that. But it says here, it's one of the last interesting facts about the movie. It says he worked as a script doctor on the film. Well, the film died. You're not a very good doctor. It's like, I'm sorry. We need another doctor. Get the crash cart out, guys. Code Blue. Code Blue.
You should look back and like to think what could have been like if this were like a really schlocky like monster movie. It would have been more fun, but this was just a tedious watch.
But that's why I said, like, you know, when I think of the better version of this movie from around the same time is The Faculty.
Yeah.
If you're looking for that kind of like who's bad, who's good, what's going on, but with a bit of a wink and a bit of a sense of humor, watch The Faculty. Because I mean, who picked this movie? Who picked this movie? I'm not blaming. I'm just saying.
Well, okay. Well, if we're not blaming, then it was me. No, because I did have like memories of it being like, wasn't that kind of cool? But as I watched the movie, I'm like, I am only remembering the first 15, 20 minutes.
I didn't remember the ending at all.
Yeah. Once we started getting into it, I was like, oh, I don't. Like, I had like the feeling of like, yeah, this is kind of coming back to me, but I could not tell you.
I couldn't remember this. I couldn't remember which movie we picked 2 days ago.
I watched the movie 4 hours ago, and I can even now like not really describe to you the ending. I mean, the thing is, because so they find out there's this bacteria, and it recreates itself every 11 seconds, and they go, "Ooh, if we can inject that into this bad thing, whatever the hell it is, we can destroy it." So they do it.
That's a direct Ben Affleck quote.
That's it. Yeah. So you're telling me, and so they do that. Okay, so fine. And then so they think that they've won, or at least they believe that maybe they've won. And then Peter O'Toole goes, "But actually, you know, it has won. Why? Well, it wanted us to tell the world, and I'm going to tell the world." I'm like, hey man, maybe don't fucking tell the world, and it loses.
But you get that bit like before. You get that bit in the very beginning when the 2 FBI agents go to him. They're like, "Why do you even do this job?" And he's like, "I need the money." Like character motivation. All right.
I was kicked out of Cambridge for having too much opinions about crazy things. Make some tea. I ended up being Gandalf there. I'm not sure.
Yeah. Okay.
Although I will say, like the events he lists off, like the Roanoke thing, it does become really funny when you look into the actual history and you realize, oh wait, we actually have a lot of records from Roanoke. They went to another town. It's so
that's explained. Not as cool.
Yeah, it's one of these things like somebody else later on picked up. It was like, where did they just abandoned the town? It's like, no, they realized the town sucked.
It's another
we have tons of letters and records from the people.
That's
we just moved.
But again, it's very like X-Filesy, but I think it's also worth pointing out that this is like such a Y2K fear movie. Right? This came out like in 97, but the idea of 1999 and Y2K, it's in all of those National Enquirer articles. The one newspaper that is in like 7 scenes.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
It mentions that a lot. And I think capitalizing on that fear that everyone had in that time period was like a big deal. It was 3 years too early.
And it was also talking about the 2012 Mayan conspiracy sort of thing as well. It was just like all in all, weird fucking movie. Weird. Yeah. Just weird movie.
But I like weird movies. It's just not a good movie.
It's not weird in the good way.
No.
It's weird in the know what they were trying to do.
This isn't a get a bunch of people together and watch Phantoms. There's so many movies that we've suggested on this very podcast that you should watch. And it's just, I don't ever want to watch this movie.
And that's where I was going to segue is like, don't watch this movie. This is one of those ones that we can recommend. We've taken this bullet for you.
Skip.
Yeah.
The ideal way to watch this movie is exactly the way I did in like 2001. Which is you heard somebody say it in a movie and you're like, all right, I'll check it out.
You're trying to hit on a girl who loves Ben Affleck. And you rent the VHS to go to her house. All right, there you go. That's the only time it's okay.
Yeah.
Whereas the other movie that we did bring this week is a movie that I had seen many, many, many times. And I think it's just like, so this is a 1995 crime film, okay? Things to Do in Denver When You're Dead. Now, you've got to try and put yourself in the mindset, audience, of how in 1994 Pulp Fiction came out. Mm-hmm. And everyone was like, what is this movie? And it's huge and it's big and it's at the Cannes Film Festival. It's winning Oscars and it's relaunching careers. And everyone was like, oh my God. And then suddenly you were just getting 2 Days in the Valley. You were getting Things to Do in Denver When You're Dead. You're getting all of these sort of like Pulp Fiction wannabe crime movies. But this is one that was in a very heavy rotation in my house. I don't really know why. Maybe we had the VCD, maybe we had the VHS. I do know that my brother's band, before like his big band that got famous, one of their songs was called The Man with the Plan, which is based off, Christopher Walken's character. So this movie, I think I was the one that was pushing for it. I was like, let's do this, guys. Let's do this. I remember this movie. I remember liking this movie. Now, Will and Ryan, neither of you had seen this movie?
I'd seen this movie.
You had seen, but Will,
it's been a very, very long time.
I had never even heard of this movie.
So how did you feel when you started seeing the cast of this movie?
Oh, when I saw the cast, I was like, I was getting stoked. And then I was watching the movie and I was like, what? Like, what is, like, this is a bizarre film. This is a utterly bizarre movie. I'm not going to say it's definitely not Phantom's level, but it is like, what the fuck is this?
I'm going to give you try and Cliff Notes explain this movie, the genre and what it is. Like, just go. What is this movie? Well,
it's a crime drama about a guy who's such a good guy, you guys. He's a good guy. He's the best guy. He's so good. They call him Jimmy the Saint 85,000 times in this movie. The movie stops every 5 minutes to be like, Jimmy, you're such a good guy. I guarantee you, Tommy Wiseau saw this movie and he's like, that's how you write the movie. Everybody stops to say you're a good guy. And so this good guy,
how else are we gonna know?
This good guy goes to Christopher Walken. I didn't even know his character.
Is summoned to Christopher Walken.
Summoned. I didn't even know his character was called the Man with a Plan. That totally missed me, like 1,000%.
It's funny, Christopher Walken is playing a guy in a wheelchair too.
So he goes to him.
The only thing they say less than Jimmy the Saint is the Man with a Plan. They say that 7,000 times.
I missed it entirely because I think my brain was just trying to be like, what am I watching? And he's got to go intimidate the co-lead of Sports Night because that guy is dating his son's ex-wife or girlfriend. His son's ex. His son, by the way, just fully tries to kidnap a little girl during recess.
He is a diddler. That movie opens with that.
Yeah, that's how the movie opens, and then you're like, oh, he's only doing that because he can't be with his ex wife or girlfriend. Okay. And so it's like your job is just intimidate the Sports Night guy, just scare him. That's all it's going to take.
He doesn't even call it a job. He calls it like
an action.
Right? Something like that. Yeah.
Oh, well, we'll get into the lingo of this movie because it was driving me insane.
There is a lot of lingo in this movie.
I was getting pissed. So anyway, Andy Garcia, the best guy in the world, such a good guy. He's got to assemble a team, which is why I know Ryan likes this movie. He's got to put a team together.
Can confirm, rock hard.
And remember, he's got to intimidate one guy, not hurt him, not kill him, scare him. So he's got to hire the craziest, gruffest goons to do. Why? You're just scaring the dude.
He's thorough. That's why he's the best, because he's got the team.
It makes sense because Jimmy the Saint has got to get together with Easy Win Pieces, Big Bear Franchise, and Critical Bill because they've all got their nicknames. And
they're all getting $10,000 for this job. This is like a $50,000 job.
He's giving him $50,000, and he can pay them however he chooses.
Yeah, you know why, Will? Because he's a saint.
he's such a good guy. And guess what? Because it's a movie, it goes bad, which you would have never guessed because he hires the craziest dude who's ever been crazy.
He basically hires Wayne Grow.
Yeah, except for this guy. Wayne Grow would be weirded out by this guy. Like Wayne Grove from Heat would be like, I'm not going.
He's
near
a
that
fucking
dude. He's
dookie
crazy.
diver.
He's a brown boy.
I
I thought honestly, I expected Treat Williams to be your favorite part of the movie.
I was just sitting there trying to figure out why did he do this part? Why is he in this movie?
He went from this to Ghost Ship, man.
Ghost Ship makes sense to me. I love Ghost Ship.
So I talk about, I have a very like encyclopedic photographic sort of memory for movies, but there was only really like two bits that I remember from this movie. One is Jimmy walking in and doing his Jimmy the Saint thing when he first walks in, because it's just got, I'll give it, this movie, the only reason this movie is like fun to watch or just watchable to me is the personality of Andy Garcia carries this movie.
He's great.
This is the third Andy Garcia movie I've watched this week. We're not even talking about Black Rain.
But oh my god! But the only other part that I remember is Treat Williams saying "spongy" when he's
he's describing in detail
eating shit. Just say it straight ahead.
Well, but I forget, like, because the other guy calls him out for being that, and he calls him a liar. But then later he's like, "Yeah, I ate a little bit of shit."
But like,
just a little bit.
That was. I thought there was a euphemism for being like, oh, he was doing homosexual stuff in prison. No. Because I'm like the '90s. I'm like, oh, because
we're past that.
I'm like, this is written in the '90s. Nobody's being sensitive about it. This is it. And then later on, no, we're not being cute. He just literally ate shit. And I'm like, well, what?
So, all right. So, audience, strap in.
You guys are going to have to take it.
Strap in for 2 seconds and let me just give you a rundown. So, this was a Miramax movie. So, it's another Weinstein movie, which used to mean something else.
Phantoms was also.
That was a Weinstein movie as well. I saw that as well.
Yeah.
But just listen to this cast: Christopher Walken, Gabrielle Anwar, Fairuza Balk, Steve Buscemi, Jack Warden, Treat Williams, Bill Nunn, William Forsythe, Christopher Lloyd, Andy Garcia. It is actually a T to B, absolute banger.
Tip to tail.
Banger of a cast. Now, Ryan, you jumped on the thread, and I deliberately avoided it because you did a little bit of like nerddom. Is that you realize that this movie is essentially the 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon
basically
of our podcast.
This podcast. Yeah, I was like almost every. I would just turn this into a little game. Of all those people that you listed, how many are? There's only one of them that hasn't been in a movie that we've covered before.
I wanted to say, is it Christopher Lloyd?
Who Framed Roger Rabbit?
Son of a bitch. Okay.
Well, and Batman Returns. Or no, I'm sorry. Adam's Family Values.
So wait. Yeah. Okay. Then it must be Bill Nunn.
No. Bill Nunn was in Idlewild and Loaded Weapon 1.
Oh, shit. That's right.
Son of a bitch. What's Idlewild? Did we watch this? What's that movie about? I've forgotten with that movie even exists.
That was the Atlanta musical.
That's the one.
Oh, yeah. Okay. All right. Fine.
It was Treat Williams. He's never been
son of a bitch
in one of our movies.
What? We didn't do the Phantom on here?
No, not yet. Because
we're gonna have to do that.
Maybe next.
Wait, so we've had
we did Phantoms. The Phantom is
the better one. Yes.
All right. No. So go on. No, Ryan, help us out here. Like.
Okay. So there's 2 actors that have starred in one movie that we've done together, and it
William Forsythe.
It's William
and
Forsythe.
Steve Buscemi.
No. Steve Buscemi, I only have him in Big Fish. I'll just go through the list. So we have Andy Garcia. He was in Ocean's 11. Barb and Star, we just did Untouchables.
Yeah.
Christopher Walken was in Hairspray, Batman Returns. Christopher Lloyd, Roger Rabbit, Adam's Family Values. William Forsythe was in Raising Arizona, The Rock, and Stone Cold. Bangers.
Yeah, fucking crushing it.
Bill Nunn, Idlewild, Loaded Weapon 1. Jack Warden was in Used Cars and Heaven Can Wait.
Oh, Used Cars! Of course he was!
Yeah. Steve Buscemi in Big Fish. Bill Cobbs is in Demolition Man. He was the helicopter pilot. And right. Glenn Plummer, Showgirls, and we haven't done Speed yet, but I clocked him immediately.
Don Cheadle as well turned up in this movie.
Don Cheadle was in Ocean's 11. We have Willie Garson, who was in Out Cold and The Rock. So William Forsythe and Willie Garson were both in The Rock.
Wow.
So we have, Tom Tiny Lister was in No Holds Barred. He played Zeus.
That's right.
And a throwaway character at the very end of the film. There's like Andy Garcia's character makes this like technology where people can give video eulogies for their loved ones in the future. And it's the old guy is was Bill Irwin from Planes, Trains, and Automobiles.
Yes.
son of a bitch. How long did it take you to put together that list? Because that is a good list.
Like 10 minutes.
I mean, this is our Rosetta Stone movie.
Yeah.
Like,
okay, we haven't done the only other movie I remember Gabrielle Anwar being in was the Michael J. Fox one, not The Secret to My Success. It was For Love or Money.
She's also, so I was about to say, I think Gabrielle Anwar we haven't had on the show before.
No, that's what I'm saying. Right.
Sense of a Woman, Three Musketeers. I remember. I think that's actually one of my very first notes. Is like, man, like 90s Ollie, 15, 16, 17-year-old Ollie had such a thing for Gabrielle Anwar.
She looked kind of in this movie like a little bit like a young Heather Graham too, a little bit.
I can see that. Yeah, she's like, she's 54 now. Like, I mean, the thing is, she's
saying there's a chance.
Absolutely. She's from Surrey, England. So there we go. But, yeah. But yeah, this movie, it's got banger cast, right? And like I said, it's coming out the year after Pulp Fiction. You've got the Weinsteins, Miramax are attached. You know, it was screened in the Un Certain Regard section at the Cannes Film Festival. And so everyone's like, ooh, it's this year's Pulp Fiction. This is the movie. Everybody's in it. And it bombed.
Did The Usual Suspects come out after this? Because it had that kind of feel to it too. Like all those bucket movies that fit into this kind of...
Same year. Usual Suspects is 95.
Right.
Though I will say, so Things to Do in Demi Moore Dead got kind of accused of, fairly, of being kind of like a Pulp Fiction ripoff.
Oh yeah,
right,
for sure.
Whereas I would say that other what were we just talking about?
Usual Suspects.
The Usual Suspects. I'm giving it its own little genre. The Usual Suspects is it's just The Usual Suspects.
Well, you're just a huge Brett Ratner fan, so. But Ratner and Weinstein. Oh my god.
No. And Spacey.
So kind of like, as Will mentioned, Things to Do in Denver You're Dead tells the story of a former sort of crim, Jimmy the Saint, ex-gangster, who's now running Afterlife Advice, where you get people who are dying to record video that their relatives can go back and watch. But this is it's a good thing he dies, spoiler alert, because this business would have been destroyed by the internet in just a couple of years, because the dot-com bubble, YouTube exists now. You know, it's like...
It's so funny to me. There's a Nathan For You sketch where he does the exact same thing, but for pets. And they dub over a dog. It's the funniest fucking thing. He's like, I'm sorry I died. It's like the weirdest accent you've ever heard. Great. Anyway, sorry. Segue.
But right, so then it turns out, so the man with the plan, Christopher Walken's son, who is kind of like, the way I looked at him, that actor looks like Armie Hammer's fraternal twin that didn't quite get enough oxygen while in the womb.
I looked to see what other films he was in. He was not in a lot of stuff, but he did voice the clown in the Spawn HBO TV series. Once I heard the voice,
really?
Yeah.
But I'm also really proud of the fact that he does look like Armie Hammer's fraternal twin with oxygen deprivation. That guy has a weird look.
Fetal alcohol syndrome.
If you're gonna cast a guy to be a pedophile, that's the guy.
You got to go to the Armie Hammers of the world.
Oh, by the way, quick aside. Did anyone say so? It's just been announced. You said it. You sent it to us, didn't you? It's brilliant. So the Armie Hammer has now been announced to be in the new Dark Knight movie, but it's not a Batman movie, but it tells the story of a rich vigilante beating up criminals. But it's directed by Uwe Boll. Uwe
Boll.
The guy known for making the worst movies on the planet. Like, he did all the video game adaptations.
House of the Dead, right?
0%. It's like Postal. Everything. Oh my god, the guy.
He did have a one time a contest to box his like critics. I desperately tried to figure out how to like get in on that. I was nowhere. I couldn't find out how to do it.
Oh man!
But my favorite writer did get selected. Sean Baby, who is a UFC guy. And when Uwe Boll found out who he was, and that he's like 6'4",
I'm done.
and a Muay Thai guy, he was like, "No, I think I'm good."
What an insane! Like, I don't buy those. Like, I don't pay for the pay-per-view fights. Like, I don't watch those, but I would pay money for that.
Oh my god, it would have been incredible.
Jake Paul to fight Uwe Boll.
I gotta say though, as much as we're dogging on the guy, well, you know what? the guy's
getting work, man.
He's made a shit ton of movies.
Now just imagine
mostly with Nazi gold.
Yeah, imagine he was married to Mila Jovovich. We'd be getting the same fucking movies.
Oh my god! And now you say that. And another quick aside: some new trailer just came out, and it's from the mind of George R.R. Martin, and it's starring Mila Jovovich and Dave Bautista, and it's directed by Paul W.S. Anderson.
Yeah,
again, it's like
hell yeah.
It's just, I mean, that's what I'm saying is like, you got to give credit to Paul W.S. Anderson that he just finds a way to work with his super awesome hot wife all the time. Good for you. And Uwe Boll is like, you know what, mate? You make absolute garbage, but you've been working your whole life and you've made 100 more movies than I have.
It's gotta be like, we'll give this guy like $6 million. He'll shoot for 30 days and whatever.
He has to be laundering money. That's my only theory.
You can look this up. His scam was revealed, like how he was getting his money funded. Like it's literally, he had like some scam through the German like tax loop system where he was getting money from the government basically to fund these movies. And they closed the loophole because of
no shit.
Like, something like that. I might have gotten
that's why we haven't, but
it was a scam.
Movies. It's the Uwe loop ball. But it's like he's probably getting like, because I know in the UK you can get like lottery money. So like you have the national lottery, so you all pay, but half of your money that you buy your ticket to goes into this kind of fund to fund the arts and stuff like that.
He used all that money
to a load of crap.
Create the studio, the Asylum studio to make all those movies. That's him.
Actually worth it.
Oh my god, I could talk about him.
I've ever seen one of his films.
No, I was just looking at them actually.
You're missing out.
You have the
because
let me go get this set real quick. Yeah,
because I remember he did Alone in the Dark. I remember that's the first time I heard about him. Terrible movie.
Video game
Blood Rain as well. And then there's In the Name of the King, which was the Jason Statham ripoff of Lord of the Rings, of which they have made 3 by the looks of it. They've also made
Statham in all 3.
I don't know about that.
Oh, fuck.
They did a Far Cry adaptation, also another. But he's done an Auschwitz movie. What the fuck? He's done
Ernest Goes to Auschwitz.
He's done a Darfur movie based on shocking true events.
Ernest Goes to Darfur.
But it stars Christiana Loken from Terminator 3, Billy Zane, and Edward Furlong from Terminator 2.
That's exactly who I was going to guess was in it.
It's just like this. Seriously, I think we should start a spin-off podcast, which is just
Billy Zane from The Phantom.
We got to do The Phantom now.
The Treat Williams movie.
Oh my god, he did Assault on Wall Street. I mean, there's In the Name of the King 3, which also stars Dominic Purcell.
3D.
I mean, and the guy's got 2 2024 movies. He's got another one coming out in 2025. I mean, you know what?
He must have found a new loophole.
Did he get Postal 2 made? Did he actually get Postal 2 made?
Wait.
Hopefully was that stopped by the UN or something.
I don't see
the only
Postal
movie
2.
deemed a hate crime.
Yeah. Oh god, the first movie opens with a comedic take on 9/11, where the hijackers are in the cockpit, and it's a funny scene.
Oh my god, it's because they're debating the number of virgins that they're going to get as a reward for carrying out the attacks. Good god. Wow.
So much humor to be mined.
But when you watch like the Onion movie, which is genuinely funny, that pokes humor at that, it's done very tastefully.
There are certain aspects of the Onion movie that did make me laugh out loud, and we talked about it before. It's the guy, the high diver who's still on the medical bed, and it's the incredible basketball player that managed to overcome his disability of being Jewish, which is like, I was like, oh my god, this movie.
It's a great one. Still holds up. Some of those still hold up, and you get Steven Spielberg. Steven Seagal is the cock puncher.
Oh, cock puncher! Yes, that's right.
Oh yeah,
he's the puncher of cocks.
Okay, all right. Well, look, I'm gonna after this 15-minute segue talking about absolute randomness. Let's get back to things to do in Denver when you're dead.
I love this movie.
Well, the thing is, I fondly remember this movie, and in the watch, I was watching it and remembering what I liked as a 15, 16-year-old boy watching this movie, especially being grown up on 80s movies where everything was just, roided out guys and big explosions. In this case, I'm like, oh, okay. It's like, it's kind of weird. It's kind of interesting. And I like Andy Garcia. I loved him from The Untouchables and stuff like that. But watching it again at this point, through the eyes of the pod and through the eyes of someone who's been watching movies for his whole bloody life. And, I'm just seeing all the things that are like weird about it. I was kind of watching it with Will's eyes this time. And I'm still going to say I enjoy it, but I understand that it's fundamentally a very flawed movie.
Yeah, I think Will, you'd said it. It feels like with a cast like this, it feels like a made-for-TV movie, and I have to agree with you there.
Yeah, it's such a weird because the movie's doing odd things like introducing the lingo, which is so bizarre in this movie. And as I looked up the trivia, the lingo is not like the writer, director, whoever didn't go and study an actual subculture. He just picked slang, I guess, from what did it say, Singapore?
It's so he's saying it's some Vietnam slang, so Vietnam War slang, biker slang, and then some of his own original diction. So it's all it's all give it a name, boat drinks. It's all all these things that they're kind of throwing around, which I thought was cool when I was 15. Yeah. It's like, hey, give it a name, and I'm watching it this time at 43, going, give what a name? What name? What are we talking about? Yeah. What the fuck are we talking about?
Yeah,
that's the thing. Go
ahead, but the movie also, every time they introduce lingo, they got to cut to the old guy in the diner to be like, here's what the lingo means. And I'm like, stop doing that.
I missed it because I hadn't seen this in forever. And I really thought this movie also had a Usual Suspects type of twist ending where they all fake their deaths or something. Because you get that weird
happy ending.
I guess, yeah.
In heaven.
Yeah. They all fucking hate each other. Why would that be their dream?
Right.
A dream?
That's what I was thinking. I'm like,
ghosts?
People want to be on this boat with Treat Williams?
What is this, some kind of ghost ship?
Now we're talking.
You're telling me this is some kind of ghost ship? That was my Ben Affleck.
Son of a bitch.
Because you have the guy from Problem Child, Grandpa, I forget his name, which we haven't done yet. But it's he's telling someone this story, and you expect the twist to be the reveal of him who he's telling that story to, who you never see. It's just, it means nothing.
Yeah, so right. Jack Warden, who's always just sitting in the malt shop. So as much as this is a movie that is using Denver, they're using Denver a lot. You're seeing a lot in its background. They get out of the city. They get up into the mountains,
time, which was kind of jarring. To see Denver in the summertime was weird.
But when it comes to location work, we have the malt shop and we have the only bar in Denver.
Right.
They're across the street from one another.
But it's whatever it's called, the stripping lady bar or the naked lady bar, whatever the hell it's called. But
it's a weird name, yeah.
It's the only bar that anybody goes to because he goes there.
Pearl Diver.
Gabrielle Anwar goes there. Detective
during the day, he hits on her and he leaves that bar and it's light. 3 in the afternoon.
Yeah.
But also Detective Kawato from freaking Total Recall. Everyone just goes to this bar and it was it's it's like people saying it's a shade of Pulp Fiction. It's just
definitely.
It's not using locations in the right way.
It's not noir-y
it's not noir-y enough. No, it's not.
But it was different enough at that time. That's what I'm saying. Lob it in with those films. It was still when you saw the stream, oh, this is the cool new thing. It was that. The Pulp Fiction of its time.
Yeah, I could see that. I could see that point of view, especially at the time this was coming out, because I'm watching it today, being they just hang out at a malt shop.
You've seen all these movies before, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but the malt shop, exactly. Go for that, Will, because even I was going, well, this is a fucking weird place for a bunch of gangsters to hang out.
Yeah, there's a kid's birthday party going on while they're having an argument about eating shit, and it's they're literally just throwing slurs at each other and hitting each other with chairs while children are having a birthday party. And I'm like, why?
What's your point,
There's
Snowflake?
a bar in this movie. Why aren't you guys there?
Yeah. What you don't know is the malt shop is connected to the bar. You got to go Goodfellas style. You walk in through the front of the malt shop, you go around the back, and you go into the jazz club.
Interesting. The idea of a malt shop in 1995, in Pulp Fiction, they make a point of this is kitschy and weird that this place exists, and in this, it's no, we just all accept that it's
a local town thing. This is
a $5 shake.
I guess.
$5 shake.
Right.
I'm reading Roger Ebert's review, and there's a quote here that I'm like, Roger, you missed it, because he goes, I think it's an interesting miss, but it's a movie you might enjoy if A, you don't expect a masterpiece, and B, you like dialogue in Quentin Tarantino movies. I would say the dialogue in this is not Quentin Tarantino.
No, but it still has that feel where it's trying to elevate this material. Yeah, it's hey, we're doing a smart movie here. Pay attention. And I did. I was on board the whole time.
I mean, I was. It's, you know, like I said, I didn't take an incredible amount of notes for either of these movies. Like, I was kind of like just watching them. I was kind of like into it. For this one,
I definitely wasn't watching Phantoms. My brain shut off 25 minutes in.
But like on this one, I was kind of just re-watching it for the first time, and like I said, in like 30 years, and it's like there's just
like, oh no, I hate this movie.
No, because I didn't hate it because I like Andy Garcia in this movie. I like Christopher Lloyd.
You've seen so many Tarantino films like since this came out. It's hard not to compare them.
Right, but you can't, because you've got to think of it in the time. You know, you have to think we were in 1995. We're trying something new. This was one of those movies that I did find like interesting and exciting. I did watch it a lot, and it's like, oh, we are trying something new when it comes to sort of cinema. It's just it's one of those movies that, like, you know, you look at Pulp Fiction now and it's as amazing now as it was then, and then you look at this movie and it's like, we're not learning the lessons right. We're just trying to art a clone out.
I think if this had like a better director attached to it, it could have been
a better
film.
I agree. I think it's a wrong. The director is just not quite getting it. You know,
there's only a couple of standouts for me that I absolutely love. There's one, Andy Garcia hitting on Gabrielle Anwar's character in the bar. Like, the shit that he's
got game.
Fantastic.
I got it written down.
The only thing I wrote down, because I'm going to use that next time I go to the bar.
Oh no.
The second thing is at the
most
very
women
end,
just float around. You float. Yeah. Women who float, they need guys who make them thump.
You glide.
Yeah, that's glide. That's it.
Yeah, you glide.
Women who glide need men who make them thump.
Hey, Dollface, you're leaving a snail trail. You're gliding here. Anyway. That was cut. But the other scene is at the end when Andy Garcia's character kills the son of
the man with the plan.
He pulls up in the car to the two gangsters that normally pick him up from the bowling alley and fling the hat. And I was like, that's fucking cool.
Yeah, it was a cool shot, and the guy catches it really well, perfectly in camera. I don't
know how many times they shot that, but I was like, that you couldn't do that with CGI.
It was probably an accident, and Andy Garcia improvised it, and they just kept it in the movie. But like, no, I'm with you, because there are moments I like. Yeah. There was a shot where, like, I like how when it goes wrong, it does go wrong very well. Like they pull the guy over, but it starts raining, and I like that the guy they pull over isn't an idiot. He's like, where's your ID? Where's your raincoat? This doesn't make sense. What's going on?
Where are your fingers?
And I'm like, the thing is, the other note that I've then got is like, well, this motherfucker just can't shut up, because he's like, now you're being pulled out of the car by a psychopath. You're up against it on a deserted road by two guys who are armed, and you mouth off and get the ever living shit kicked out of you, and then you call the guy the C word. And then get communist, and then get yourself stabbed in the neck. But I tell you what, the one thing I did completely forget was the inciting incident. Because I go, oh, they fuck it up in some way. I forget that the girl's in the car. So I was oh shit moment.
She's it's a van. It's like a panel van. She's in the back of the van the whole time. Hears all of this. Doesn't jump out until the very last thing. Great practical shot of her fucking brains getting blown out.
That was actually, that was a good shot.
I did not see that coming too. Like, you expect them to fuck up this job. You don't expect them to fuck it up this bad. I
was just kind of the entire time like watching, like from the moment they introduced Treat Williams' character, I'm like, no, don't hire that. Why are you doing? And then when
we'll hire him, but we won't put him on the assignment. It's like, all right, we'll put him on the assignment.
Him and No Fingers can like pretend to be the cops. I'm like, you have two normal looking guys. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah, the guy with leprosy and the absolute psychopath.
Yeah,
it would have been funny if the slang they used for him, like when he was in prison, was like what he was doing was eating shit. They would just called him Doc Brown. That would be I was thinking about that.
Would have been confusing at all.
And you get the black guy sitting in the car that's doing the play-by-play. He's like, okay, it's going great. They're just talking. They pulls him out of the car and he goes, he's out of the car.
Why are Andy Garcia and William Forsythe 80 miles away from what's happening?
Like, I think because Andy Garcia is kind of like protecting William Forsythe's character because he has a family. He's got some kind of.
Well, he does really well at that.
Why is he there? Like, I don't know. Like,
because of all this, you do get Steve Buscemi's character, who's essentially the wolf. Right?
So that's what I was going to say. So the inciting incident is they fuck it up. They murder the girl that the pedophile child likes. So now the crippled from the neck down man with a plan who likes Jenny McCarthy to stroke his penis that he can't feel, he orders buckwheats. So there's some more slang to piss Will off.
Yeah, I didn't get that either. Like,
well,
am I supposed to know what the...
No, but they explain it, which is buckwheats.
I know.
Buckwheats is they're going to kill you, but instead of making it easy, they're going to kill you in the most painful way possible, which as
shotgun up the bum?
We're just getting shot up the arse, yeah, which happens to Bill Nunn. But yeah, so, and then we get introduced to Mr. Shush. I will say that Buscemi I like him in this movie.
Like, great. I don't think he has any line of dialogue. Right?
He has like 5 lines of dialogue, if that.
So, yeah, barely talks. He plays a good psycho. I mean, we know that from Con Air. So like he's a great like crazy bad guy. He's also apparently the greatest assassin fighter who's ever lived, and I just can't buy it. I can buy him. I think
that's kind of what's so funny, is it for me though? Like I'm like, yeah, sure, it's Buscemi. Yeah, I'm in.
He takes on a gang with his super assassin kung fu, and I'm just like, no, sorry, you try again, movie. You got to start over.
The bit where he rocks up in Denver and immediately walks into 3 guys trying to murder a guy in an alleyway. Yeah. And decides to help out for some reason, just so we can see that he's dangerous. But yeah, I know the bit. And then later on, he walks into the club, and like I said, we've got Don Cheadle, Tiny Lister, and all those Glenn Plummer are all in this, barely in this movie, but they're in it for like 5 minutes.
Just that one scene. Yeah. A completely different club on the other side of town, next to a different Shake Shack or a malt shop. And what you don't know is that both those places are rivals.
It's 100%.
100 years. Yeah.
It was 100% the same bar, and they were like, guys, you know how we can make this feel like a different place? We fill it with all black characters,
and we flip the frame around.
Yeah, right. Everyone's like, oh, there you go, no problem. So like it's like
the bar from Roger Rabbit too. It's
but like it's a weird movie because like so we do have Jimmy the Saint, all right, Andy Garcia, former gangster. He's
such a good guy.
He's such a nice guy, such a great guy. He's got a heart of gold for Rosa Bullock, for his prostitute friend who's definitely
also the mother of his child.
Well, maybe? That's what I was getting to.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
No, but exactly.
Just remembered it.
But that's kind of what I mean. Is like it's this movie is making weird choices. So we like Jimmy because everyone tells us he's a good guy, and then he gets his crew together and he's splitting the 50K, 10K to everybody. Clearly, he's a good guy. It goes wrong. Now he's giving his friends money for them to get out of town. You know, and it's like, I kind of like it, but it's like, it's just these weird, like, it can't stop telling us what a nice guy is. That when Fairuza Balk's been beaten up, so like, she's just one of many hookers on the street in this dirty place of fucking Denver, and she's, you know, she's scritchy, she's scratchy, she says, give me $5, I promise I'm clean. Someone beats her up, he goes and beats the shit out of this yuppie, but doesn't get arrested. And then his final thing is that, because she's coming to me, she's like, hey, man, I feel like if I become a mom, like if I have a baby, this is gonna fix everything.
Okay,
and he's like, all right, here you go.
Like the guy that he beats up in the boardroom, who beat her up. I could have sworn that was going to turn out to be because the woman Gabrielle Anwar's character has a boyfriend.
The boyfriend.
Right?
Yeah.
I thought that was going to be that guy. Because you only hear him being described, he looks like a newscaster or something because he beats the shit out of this guy. Then you see the two of them. I assume it's the same guy. I assumed it was the same guy leaving the place later, but it's not. I was like,
yeah.
What is this?
And which is like the scene at the end where he's like, take my ring. You know, it's
so fucking weird.
Yeah.
And she does.
Yes. But like, I think the part that I did like is Critical Bill holed up in his apartment. Like he's there, like, so he's in hiding, and Jimmy the Saint finds him, and you can tell it smells because Jimmy's always covering his nose. And it's the bit where like Treat's offering him, do you want something to eat? You know,
holding like a giant Bowie knife too.
He's peeing into a jug. While offering Jimmy food is hilarious.
And he's like, funny reveal that this guy was like never in Vietnam. It's alluded that he's like lost his marbles because of that, but no, he's just
no, I definitely
it's
got
like
him
a Walter thing from like Big Lebowski.
Yes. Yeah, or like if you ever seen the TV show Space from the UK, is Mike.
No,
you know,
exactly.
Yes,
exactly.
He's someone just he kind of He's cosplaying as like a,
he's so over the top in this, but I kind of dug it. Like I thought he was.
That's what I mean.
It's Treat Williams, so you can't not like him. But
his whole monologue about eating human shit it's
great. And then and I like the little, the fake out of like when Buscemi comes to kill him. We've just seen him fall asleep, and they've put us that he's been awake for 4 days. I just like the reveal of the lights come on. He goes, "What's surprise, motherfucker?"
Yeah.
Blah! And like blows him away.
I think it's Derringer. That was fucking lame, though. And then they embrace.
Yeah.
That's great. Okay, here's what I got to say about the deaths, because they're supposed to all be buckwheated, right? That's like the order that comes down from Christopher Walken. But Christopher Lloyd doesn't get killed that way. He just straight up gets shot
because he accepts it. I think again, that's the kind of like, he's like, I've been there, done that. I've lived my life. It's time to die. And he just goes, make it quick. And I guess Buscemi does. I'm with you, Will. Doesn't make sense because he's supposed
like a
to
weird
make
mutual
them pay.
Respect because he's a professional.
I guess that's the way I read
it.
Then
William Forsythe, he cuts up to death.
Yeah, he cuts him a bad. He gets
Wingrewed.
Yeah. There's that, and then also it's supposed to. By the way, this order comes down from Christopher Walken, where it's like, you've got 2 days. He says this to Andy Garcia, and so it's like 48 hours. They're gonna die. You can get out of town. They spend like 3 weeks there in Denver. Many nights pass by. After a while, I'm like,
he goes back to Christopher Walken multiple times. He's like, dude, what are you still doing here?
So many times. Even Christopher Walken is like, you should be gone. What are you doing?
So you did say that, Will. I was keeping track of it. I was watching. So that was like on the second day he goes back. That's when he's like, he's going to attack him, because he'd gone back on the first day to try and get William Forsythe off because he's got kids. Goes back the second day because William Forsythe. So it's into the third day. But you're right. Is that because a lot's happening, but it's also because a lot of stuff that would be happening at night, kind of like we've already said, we're in bars, we're in places like that. Right. It's 2:00 in the afternoon.
I like that they all go to the funeral.
Right.
They got a guy that works in the mortuary that's like that makes these false bottom caskets to put 2 people in there, but you get the bit of them, the pallbearers taking the
that's funny.
Like, I was totally expecting a coffin flop. I know you were too. It was framed as such. Imagine 2 bodies falling out of there. Like Christopher Lloyd is still wearing his police uniform.
Insane. Yeah.
And it's never really explained. Does he have fucking leprosy, or like what? Why is he's got the things on his head, and he's lost a toe, and he's got like fingers missing. It's never really explained. It's just one of those weird
right back to Toontown.
So I will say, go for it.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, God, was you going
to? Why don't you fucking say something?
Well, I was going to say that Christopher Lloyd, his little speech that he does with Andy Garcia. So when Jimmy the Saint tries to get him to leave, and he's like, "No, man, have you ever danced with a $2,000 a night hooker? The foxtrot in Paris kind of stuff."
For me, the action is the Jews.
But I like the Jews. But no, is that whole thing for him, his whole little I'm out, I'm wrapping it up, I'm accepting it. I think he did a great job in that bit. There's bits of this movie where, like, Christopher Walken as well. There's just bits where Walken's being Walken. There's bits where Treat Williams being random. Garcia's being charming. Christopher Lloyd's like doing his thing. There are parts of this movie that do work.
The scene when Christopher Walken is killed and he's shot and he falls into like the projection thing, and you see like all the stuff flittering.
Christopher Lloyd, you mean?
Christopher Lloyd, excuse me. You hear people in the movie theater go, "Hey,
yeah."
Because
my hog here.
Christopher Lloyd is
he's hysterical.
He's running the picture, the theater in an adult theater, and so he's the one that's changing the reels. And there's that bit like he falls over and then it burns through the film, and you just see all the guys like, "Oh,
hey, I was just about to finish."
Yeah, that was great. But that scene too, I think Christopher Lloyd, it's a great speech. He delivers it. I mean, these are all great actors. It did weird me out of why are they having that at an abandoned carnival?
They're just using
that's where that scene is happening, is just a carnival where nobody's there, and he has this built like beautiful soliloquy, and I'm like,
they're on the run And it's the last place anyone would think. Also, probably it was a cheap location available in Denver.
Yeah,
definitely. You could see the Terrifier in the background.
Yeah. but then my absolute favorite part of this movie, the part where I felt like I was absolutely losing my mind, is William Forsythe. So after he's got his whole family like together, they're gonna get in the car, they're gonna go. And then Christopher Lloyd's character gets killed. Then William Forsythe comes back to tell Jimmy, like, hey, they got Christopher Lloyd. And I'm just like, they know. They're trying to kill him. You came back to tell him this? What are you doing? What is anybody in this movie doing?
Yeah, they're not very good at running away. They could have just
William Forsythe,
stupidest people on the planet.
Yeah, but you do get that beautiful ending, I guess.
So, all right. So
you get sorry. There's
on a boat.
There's a couple of endings. You have the ending of Andy Garcia recording the video for his future.
Okay,
child.
so yeah. Hang on. So let's set up. So okay, everybody's slowly being taken out. So Christopher Lloyd gets taken out first. Then we see Bill Nunn, easy win. He gets buckwheated like pretty bad
in a dumpster.
We see William Forsythe. He gets cut up. And then it's like when Buscemi comes for Treat Williams, Treat has the jump on him, Buscemi takes him out. Yeah. And so then we find out, and it's just such a random throwaway that apparently we hear about Mr. Schuss's death. So then three Mexican brothers from are hired. We get one shot of them driving in. And then we kind of get Jimmy knows. Jimmy knows his days are numbered. So he just has that moment where he buttons up his jacket and then we just hear bang, 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 he's dead. But then we kind of get, like you said, so it's more endings than the Return of the King. It's just because suddenly we're getting voiceover. We're getting voiceover from Jimmy, and then we see okay, we understand he's leaving a video message for the prostitute's child. We then see him impregnating in his car, and he's like, "Your mother's a great woman. She's a wonderful." I'm like, dude, she
may be a whore, but she's a whore with a heart of gold.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then we see Gabrielle Anwar has left whatever her boyfriend is. She's wearing the big rock that Andy Garcia gave her because
I like to think that she didn't leave him and just kept the ring. She's like,
but then we get it's a confounding choice. One that I enjoyed when I was younger. Now I think about it. Because I remember, the very first note I've got is boat drinks.
Like a studio note too.
That's what I was going to ask. Yeah. This is what I wanted to ask. Okay, so this whole movie's gone down, and then we get this sort of weird ending of where all of the guys that we've just seen, the whole crew are on this mystical boat, on this mystical water. It's got this kind of heaven vibe. Andy Garcia's dressed all in white, and it's like, guys, we got boat drinks.
He's wearing the exact outfit from Ocean's 11 too.
Right.
Yeah.
And then
Terry Benedict in this.
Christopher Lloyd's got his fingers back and all this kind of shit, and we're just and the movie, this is how the movie ends. And
it'd be funny if he didn't have his fingers back.
Yeah.
That's what he's just fumbling with a fishing rod.
No, he should be he should be putting it on the thing to go fishing with. He should be using a finger as bait. Yeah. But that's I had the same
bizarre choice.
It's like guys, we have to have a happy ending. Okay, let's shoot them in heaven? Question mark?
We can't do heaven. We got a boat. We got this boat for 2 days. Let's go.
So I had to. Yeah. So this is where I was watching because I had forgotten that. I had forgotten that is what happened, but I had forgotten that's why I remembered boat drinks. But Will, I want to know your thoughts in that moment when that scene started happening.
As our resident writer,
yeah, as and just you'd like to say it as it is. Just seriously, man, what the fuck?
You turned it off before that, didn't you?
I became. It's the moment where I became the Joker.
You got phantomed. You got phantomed.
Exactly. Yeah, I became a phantom. No, at that point, I was just kind of I was like, what? Yeah. What is happening? I almost expected the movie to keep going. I'm like, this. We are in uncharted territory at this point. I thought they were going to turn left and go meet the guys from the Iron Claw. I thought,
things to do in Denver when you're in the afterlife.
Again, I thought this movie was going to have some kind of twist where all of the gang members were faking their own death to get out of being killed, and then that would come back later. They all have this glorious escape, but that doesn't happen. So that's why this ending feels so out of pocket for this film and so unnecessary.
Yeah, it's things to do in heaven when you're dead. There you go.
Right,
That's the epilogue.
It's all dogs go to Denver. Yeah.
This the other thing I want to point out, and this is gonna be a little bit of a weird tangent. I've also been watching. This is gonna be a shocker to everyone listening. I'm a huge nerd. And I was watching this anime show, this Gundam show, and I was finishing it up. The last episode, I promise this relates.
I watched 3 episodes of that.
The episode I was watching had a guy and a girl, and the guy's going to go off to a big Gundam fight battle, and he's probably not going to make. Yeah, he's probably not going to live through it. And the girl is like, "We need to get together. We need to have a baby before you go." And I remember being like, "Anime is so weird. I can't watch this."
And now you get it.
And then this movie ends with Andy Garcia going to the prostitute and be like, "We got to make a baby." I'm like, how did this happen to me twice?
Are you saying this
day?
movie was inspired by a Gundam?
That's the other way around. Yeah, Gundam was like, you know what? That's it. Yeah.
I like to think that Christopher Lloyd at the end of this film, once becoming an angel, then goes to play baseball for the
there we go. He's going to be in the outfield. Right. Yes.
Yeah. But I was judging by your face, Ollie, you've never seen angels in the outfield.
Though I do know, interesting fact is that one of the extras in that movie is my father-in-law. So he was in the stadium, and he goes, "Yeah, they moved us around." So he was in the stadium for Angels in the Outfield. That's a random little fact I know.
Yeah, any chance you get to bring that up?
By the way, have I mentioned I used to go to boarding school?
Oh my God, here we go. But anyway, I wanted to bring that up because I watched both of those in the same day, and I'm like, I can't believe this happened twice. One in a TV show from Japan and one in a movie.
And also in Will's new screenplay coming.
Yeah.
And also in my "You're going to war, so we got to make a baby." That's the title of my next movie.
I got the perfect director for you.
Army Hammer.
Yeah. Dude, I mean, this movie... okay, all right. Would you recommend this as a watch?
I would.
It's bizarre in a like it's okay. Like I'm it's not bizarre in a Hard Ticket to Hawaii kind of way, but it is kind of like it's an interesting movie to watch because you can tell they were trying to coast off of vibe, and it's so many strange choices are happening, but the cast is amazing. Like everybody's turning into like a real performance, so it's such an anomaly that I do recommend this. I'm like, this is worth watching.
I think it's a snapshot, you know, of the 90s and kind of the way movies were going at the time.
I would say you can skip this movie, but only if you watch all of the other movies that we've covered with all of these actors.
There we go.
Oh, God.
Well, no, the thing is, of course, though, here on the podcast, we are not debating what movie is the best movie. We are trying to find the movie that best kind of represents a state. Now, as I said last season, we ended up picking Red Dawn, a movie that was not shot in Colorado. I believe a lot of it was shot in Idaho and stuff like that. But what it was getting into was it gave us the vibe of Colorado. It gave us the outdoorsy vibe. It gave us that kind of like, you know, we sort of got into the American mindset. Now, these two movies are both very much shot in Colorado, you know, so Phantoms was shot, like we said, in this small town up in the sort of the mountains of Colorado. And that, you know, and I was interested watching Things to Do in Denver When You're Dead. Is like, is it just in Denver? Because it's not just in Denver. I finally went to Denver for the first time last year. So I was actually recognizing, I go, oh, they've gone outside the city. Oh, they've went up into the mountains a little bit. You know, when we went to William Forsythe, we meet him at his, like, he's in a mobile home place, but it's surrounded by, you know, pine trees and stuff. So I'm like, okay. I think this is actually a pretty open race as far as which movie's going to win.
If only it was set in the wintertime, that would have like catapulted it into a whole other echelon of Denver.
You know what? And I feel like had it been in wintertime, it would have been crossing over a little bit with SLC Punk. That's a random, like, I don't know why, but that I was in the kitchen earlier making my dinner. And I was like going, man, SLC Punk gave us that vibe for Salt Lake City. Yeah, and I feel like
that's true.
Things to Do in Denver When You're Dead kind of gave us this Denver vibe, you know? So yeah, so that's what I throw it to you guys is that I believe that both of them, neither of them like, you know, mind-blowing movies. And I would say the Red Dawn of the three is the movie I would recommend watching. But would you say that either of these two have got a chance to dethrone? Because I reckon they do. open to you guys?
I think so. And if I was to really kind of be pushed, I would be pushed more towards things to do in Denver. Because you get more of Colorado than just like one town. Like the town in Phantoms could be Flagstaff, could be kind of anywhere. There's nothing that's really super Colorado about it, like, you're uniquely Colorado, other than the license plate. You get one license plate at the very beginning. But things to do in Denver, you do get more. I did want to ask, I don't think the Natural History Museum was filmed in Denver, because that looks exactly like the Natural History Museum just down from my house at USC.
I'm sure you're right. Yeah.
Because I was like looking at it.
There was some stuff shot in that room for sure.
I've been in that room where they're going to looking at all the animal displays. I'm like, I've been in there. I've walked that, unless they have an identical looking one. But I looked online, and their Natural History Museum does not look like it does in this movie from what I saw.
So we will say, so they did say production was in August 94, shot 34 days on 25 interiors and exteriors in and around Denver, Colorado. So there's no sort of like real mention of pickup shots and stuff. And it does have the Denver Museum of Science and Nature. Like, my thing is, I get what you're saying, because even I was looking at going, I actually said, oh, wow, Denver's got a pretty nice museum. Like, that was an actual, like, that stuck out to me too. But like, my question, I guess, unless it was like a last second sort of, they seem to have, this was a shot in a month movie in Denver. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think we called out too. This movie came out it was released December 1st, 1995. And Heat came out December 15th, 1995.
Oh my God.
But I don't think Heat did well in the theater at all. Like, I don't think it was like a mega blockbuster, right?
You know what? I'm going to look it up.
But like, just remember, like, did that coming out hurt this movie, or were people just kind of sick or just not into this type of film anymore?
Well, it's kind of like I'm saying, I think it was easily dismissed as not Pulp Fiction.
Right.
That's the thing, is that because, like I said, like I said, 2 Days in the Valley, you had all these other sort of like these clones that were coming out that were like, okay, but it's not like the reason that Pulp Fiction works isn't because it's a crime movie. The reason it works isn't because it's a crime movie that's told out of order. It just works because it's Tarantino being all Tarantino, and you've got the Bruce Willises and the John Travoltas and the Steve Buscemi's and everything else.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Pulp Fiction is also, like, because that was still considered to be an independent film and still like thought of being part of the independent scene. 90s were still pretty heavily like action thrillers and stuff. So like Schwarzenegger was still at the peak of his movies. So I think it was also kind of like not everybody across the country was like, we love Pulp Fiction. It was like a real indie darling.
Yeah.
Okay, so read into this what you will, Ryan. So I get your point. So yes, within 2 weeks of Things to Do in Denver coming out, we then have Heat coming out. Now, there was a huge buzz about Heat because we had Al Pacino, Robert De Niro. Everyone's talking about this. Right. This movie, so Heat made $187 million, which 95 it's an insane amount of money.
Yeah, for sure.
Things to Do in
Denver. All the money in the world. Yeah.
Things to Do in Denver When You're Dead made 500,000.
Oof!
So it was already flopping. So it came out on limited release. I think so. And the thing is, right? Other movies have done that before. It's this
recoup its CBD sales.
Right, but it's also like it was kind of working at Cannes. Let's release it in New York and LA. Maybe at 200 theaters. Oh, it's got some buzz. Let's go to wide release. So it seems like Things to Do in Denver, they put it out on a limited release, and everyone went like, nah. And so they just, I saw it on VHS or VCD.
Yeah, I had never even heard of it until maybe it was like on cable or something, like on HBO or whatever, Encore, Stars, what have you. Probably wasn't even on like a premium cable channel. But
so I would say it probably
channel, those.
It probably didn't help that Heat. That Heat came out, like 13 days after this one did. Yeah. Though at the same time, look at this for just 1 second.
It didn't really matter that much then, I guess.
The side by side of this, though, because I'm looking at the cast of Things to Do in Denver, and you look at the cast of Heat, they're both bangers.
Yeah.
On Heat's side, we've got Pacino, De Niro, Sizemore. You've got Ashley Judd, McKelty Williamson, Wes Studi, John Voight, Val Kilmer. and Things to Do in Denver. You've got Garcia, Christopher Lloyd, Treat Williams.
It's an insane cast.
Yeah,
but it's in the scope of like movies at that time, it is kind of a B tier cast, right? Like,
I know what you mean. Okay, like, Andy Garcia as the lead is
if you had Stallone as the lead in the 90s.
Now we're talking.
I don't know. I mean, and don't get me wrong, they're all phenomenal in this picture, but like comparing that to Heat, like putting that side by side, I'm like, yeah, it feels like a B tier movie that was
especially comparing to that cast. It is kind of like, well, we got the B team in here. You know.
All right, I'm in Texas, so I'm gonna throw my lasso and I'm gonna pull us back to our original. Like, it's the Colorado of it all. So what Will was saying is like, Will's leaning Things to Do in Denver. I'm not gonna lie and say I am as well.
I agree.
Ryan, like, give us your.
Yeah, I'm on the same too. The only caveat being that it is only set in Denver, and there's many other places in Colorado, Fort Collins, etc. They don't go skiing or snowboarding. Bit of a negative.
Or rollerblading.
There's no South Park references. Yeah.
Well, South Park wasn't invented yet. Like, when was South Park? Actually, it may have been, now I think about it.
95? I don't remember.
Okay. No, it does matter. I gotta look this up now.
I feel like it was 97.
97, 98?
I feel like I was
Jesus versus Santa, the Christmas special.
97. There you go. Debuted in 97. So there you go.
All right, fine. All right.
And funnily enough, I'm actually reading here that South Park was inspired by Things to Do in Denver When You're Dead. Okay, so there you go. True story. No, it's not. Okay, so I'm leaning. Will's leaning to Ryan.
I'm with these two films. I am leaning more towards Things to Do in Denver When You're Dead. That said, I do always love the comedic fact when someone's trying to escape like a big city, they always go to Colorado. Is that the takeaway? Like, that's the only place. I guess it's like the polar opposite of, say, like in LA or something like that. But
at least it wasn't until Tulsa King. So, but yes, it's that whole like it is a bit of a trope that it's like, okay, well, my life in LA or New York's not working.
Good thing I know how to use a shotgun.
Yeah, I'm gonna go.
Yeah,
but it's like I'm gonna go one of those second tier cities, which is.
But but sorry, I know I'm jumping back and forth. But Phantoms, you're right, Will. That could be set in any small town. Like, it didn't need to be Colorado.
It could have been Dante's Peak.
I don't even think it's a real town.
No.
Right? Is that right?
It was shot in a real town, but the real town that they're talking about is not a real town.
Because the movie was so bad, they're like, please don't mention our town name. We don't want
take our name off this.
Yeah. Come down to Ben Affleck Boulevard. And Rose McGowan Square.
Do you reckon that hotel that they used as a bakery is kind of like that one from Midnight Run that's just got pictures from the movie all through it?
I fucking hope not. It's just a picture of Liev Schreiber getting eaten by a moth. Like, it's just that.
They have
the
like
doll hung up.
Yeah, they've got Elder Pies have like a black goo they do on it. Just like the movie, right? And everyone's like,
if they know what they're doing, they should have got that. They should have got that dog taxidermied outside the hotel as well.
Now we're talking,
staring at fucking people.
So yeah, again, I just scrolling around, but yeah, Things to Do in Denver When You're Dead. Although it is set in Denver, I don't know enough about Denver for it to feel like you could have told me that was all shot in like Vancouver, but set as Denver. I don't know, like.
But we know it was. So it's a movie about Denver, Colorado. It is shot entirely in Denver and around Colorado, and I think that's for me what knocks Red Dawn off, because Red Dawn, as good as it is, I like it, and beautifully shot, and it's getting into this sort of this vibe and this mindset. Is like I said, it was all shot in Idaho.
Yeah,
and New Mexico.
I will say it's funny. Like, I was thinking about this, like doing this podcast. Like, it's such a stupid trope. Like they say in Sex and the City that like New York is the fifth character. Like, you don't really get that with a lot of movies outside of like L.A., New York, Vegas, like very iconography driven cities. So to set this in like a Denver of all places, like, yeah, I guess it's the most Colorado because it's set and shot there.
I mean, it's and most likely the first time I ever saw or was aware of Denver, Colorado in a movie. You know what I mean? Like, as I always like bring that up is like, my upbringing as everything I learned about America until I moved here was from the movies. You know what I mean? So that was like that. Oh, Denver, Colorado. So when I went to Denver the first time, like last year.
Mayor Bob Denver, sure.
I was actually surprised about it. It looked very different to how I pictured it in my head. I was quite surprised about Denver. Actually.
No malt shops. There was
literally, and there was more than one bar. And it was wild.
Whoa.
Yeah, I didn't see Gabrielle Anwar anywhere.
We went to Denver for my good friend Benny's bachelor party, and we had a really fun time. And it's a cool city, and that was in the wintertime, so that was my only like.
That's your fucking thing. You just can't get over it. It's like, where's the snow, guys? God damn it!
You associate Colorado with like, or at least I do with like, or Denver, like a very snowy, kind of like a Minnesota. It's like always snowing and winter. It's always perpetually winter there, even though, you know, as a culture, we're wiping that out.
Mate, well, no shit, because I went there with that very same expectation. I'm like, okay, I'm finally going to Denver, and we're going there at a time of year where it really shouldn't have been hot. We were there when it should have been 70 degrees, and for the 2 days that we were doing this event outside, it was 108 degrees. It was
and snowing.
a heat wave.
That's crazy.
And it was also the driest, like, because it's so high and so dry. Right. It was actually the hardest stop on the entire tour. It almost killed us. That was an awful day of work, I'll tell you that much. All right, so to get us on track, I feel like we have. I'm quite surprised, but we are deciding that the new movie to define Colorado for the rest of time, to the rest of the world. In fact, the whole universe, at least until we cycle back around next season, to bring some more movies to the table, that Things to Do in Denver When You're Dead is the movie to define Colorado. If you want to learn about Colorado, but you've never been there, check it out. The 1995 movie, directed by Gary Fleeder, written by Scott Rosenberg, Andy Garcia, Christopher Lloyd, William Forsythe, blah, 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 blah. Interesting movie, a little bit weird, but I would say you're probably going to get something out of it, right?
Yeah. I think this movie's worth a watch.
So that being said, I forgot to look this up actually, but it's a movie set in Colorado. What were some of the other ones that we were circling before we landed on these? Because we're all like furiously movies set in Colorado. Because I'm like, it's not got the deepest like.
I almost picked Aspen Extreme. It's a silly movie.
Well, an obvious one that we touched on, and we didn't do again is The Shining. And like, so then one of my daughter's friends, she's from Colorado, and I was like, okay, if you had to pick a movie for Colorado, what would you go? And she was like, the first one that she came out with is The Shining. So I feel like that's probably one that we've got to bring to the table next time we come around.
Right.
But outside of that, are there any other sort of movies that pop into your brain?
I mean, The Hateful Eight is on this list, but that's just set in like a cabin, so that's a hard one to suggest.
And what was I looking? I think I did suggest Alien versus Predator Requiem, the best of that franchise.
And you settled on Phantoms. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So I've got some interesting one here. Okay, so like you said, The Hateful Eight, that was shot in Telluride. Okay, so I'm like, I'm up for that. That would be kind of fun. I've only ever seen that one once. I never did see the long one. There's a Kevin Bacon movie, Cop Car.
I like that movie. Yeah.
Set in Colorado Springs, with Kevin Bacon and Shea Wiggum. Never seen that one. Identity, The Lone Ranger. You know, I finally watched that last year. My dad loves that movie. He used to love the show growing up, and I remember The Lone Ranger, when it came out, it was on Quentin Tarantino's top 10 list of the year. I actually watched it. It's actually quite fun. I'm not going to lie. It's Gore Verbinski. He's the guy that did the Pirates of the Caribbean movie. But I'm not going to lie. Lone Ranger, I could see that one. Any other ones that you guys
Number one Army Hammer fan over here. You keep
we've got both kinds of Jack Frost movies that we could have done. The one with Michael Keaton, and then The Killer.
I'm up for that.
I like the movie. Yeah.
Should have done that one.
It's like that one up there with Pumpkinhead, like those weird kind of genre of films. My favorite factoid about Jack Frost, the Michael Keaton one, is that George Clooney was originally cast. But he dropped out. So the snowman looks like George Clooney, but sounds like Michael Keaton.
Yeah, it makes so much more sense when you know that, because you look at that face, you're like, that is George Clooney.
That is a handsome snowman.
Yeah, I would bang that snowman, and I haven't said that since I saw Hot Frosty. So
there's another. I haven't seen this movie since it came out, but about Schmidt. Jack Nicholson heading to like there was the wedding in Denver.
Like a road trip. Yeah,
bit more of a road trippy movie as well.
Does have Kathy Bates in a hot tub.
Yeah, so that's the only thing I remember from that movie is you get to see Kathy Bates' tits.
Yeah. Hey man, good for her. Go for it.
Is Misery's not Colorado? Huh?
I don't think so. No, I was thinking the same thing too. Though it does say, guys.
I think I just
guys.
like winter movies.
No, guys, I've got it. I found it. I know what we're doing. Never seen it, but it turns out that Under Siege 2 Dark Territory.
Oh no!
Oh, the one on the train.
Oh no!
It's a trip from Denver to Los Angeles, guys.
I thought you were gonna say things to do. I still know what you did in Denver while you were dead. 28 years later.
So there are some movies that we can bring. So like it's interesting to sort of see that like Colorado doesn't have the deepest, like, so there are other states where like, oh my God, guys, we've got 300 movies that we could choose from. Yeah. Whereas in this case, I mean, it does say that Action Jackson was shot in Denver, Colorado.
War Games popped up too, but I think it was like one location was.
Yeah,
that's
the thing is that like, okay, all right, okay. There's some ones that we can have some. I'm like, I'm definitely going to push for Under Siege 2 next year. That's definitely going to be the one. Okay, I've never seen that movie. I'm really interested in that one.
That's one of the sequels I'd seen after seeing the first one.
This
is bad.
Oh, you saw it after. Okay, thank God.
Yeah.
But okay. So the question is that while we have understood that we have a new champion here in Colorado, is where are we going next week? Well, next week, guys, pack your suntan lotion. Get your flip flops. It's time to get out there and have some fun. We head to the state of Hawaii. Where last year, I believe the champion we got, you were saying, Will, was for getting Sarah Marshall, right? For a minute, we were all convinced that it was hard ticket to Hawaii. That was just wishful thinking.
How did we miss that one?
Honestly, we're going to have to re-listen to that episode. I don't know what's wrong with us, guys.
Yeah.
How did we make that mistake?
I'm going to rewatch Hard Ticket to Hawaii tonight. I'm going to get in the hot tub, take my top off, and I'm going to rewatch it.
It's where we do our best thinking, Will. It's where we do our best thinking.
One of these days, we'll actually record an episode from 3 individual hot tubs. So you can all see our tits.
I actually did a business call with a guy 2 days ago. He was in a hot tub where we were talking. I was like, you know what, mate? You're living your best life. Good for you. So what movies are we going to bring to the table to try and take down for getting Sarah Marshall, which we did say, I remember this much, is that like, as much as we gave it, we were somewhat reticent because it was kind of the tourism side, the tourist side of Hawaii. Now we have a few on our list. You guys can just Will, which one are you picking? We had 3 or 4 on a short list before we started recording. Which one you reckon you're going to land on?
I have actually totally. I think did I pick Lilo and Stitch? Did I settle?
That was on the list.
You said you said that you would rather take Lilo and Stitch over 50 First Dates.
Oh, yes.
Oh, see, I thought it was 50 First Dates versus the other one.
The other one that we have, it's
the OnlyFans.
Perfect Getaway.
Yes, okay. That was the other one.
I don't know much. I mean, if I would pick Perfect Getaway. That's just me.
Yeah.
I don't really like, I'm not into animated films these days. And I'd rather watch something terrible so we can talk shit about it. Because I fear if I watch Lilo and Stitch and I talk shit about it, I will be fucking lynched in public.
No! I like Lilo and Stitch. I saw that in theaters, mate.
I went to the town where that, like, in Kauai, like, where that movie, like, the town that takes place. And when you go to that town, because that movie came out so long ago, it is desolate. There's, like, murals on the wall, but it's this, like, echo of that movie. Like, the movie was so popular and it flooded this town with tourism, and then the movie isn't as popular anymore, and it's just like the one Lilo Stitch backpack on a
well, don't you worry. As we know, Disney's full of original ideas. They're now making the live action version. For God's sake.
The town is coming back,
strangely enough, set in Denver.
Look, I'll tell you what, if we're doing Perfect Getaway, then I'm going to bring in on Ollie Vita, and we're doing Lilo and Stitch. And the reason we're doing it is because Perfect Getaway involves some tourism on Hawaii as well. And while Lilo and Stitch is a bonkers animated Disney movie, it does get into the Hawaiian culture of it all. So sure. I'm throwing Lilo and Stitch. Okay, so we're going to do Lilo and Stitch, and we're going to do Perfect Getaway. Now, as
you mean to tell me the Adam Sandler movie doesn't get into the culture of the people of Hawaii?
It has
in a tasteful way.
Wait, no, it's got his buddy Rob What's-His-Face. Rob Schneider playing any kind of brown person in any of his movies. He is the representation of Hawaii.
Yeah, and Sean Astin is the brother.
Yes,
who may or may not be gay. Am I?
He's not gay. He's on. He's got a lisp, and he takes He takes muscle stuff. I only know this because my kids were watching it 2 days ago. Now, as we say, if you are looking for movies, we always recommend the app that doesn't sponsor us, but one day will. Just Watch. You can find it as a website or you can find it as an app. It's a great place to find where you can find movies. So it says here that A Perfect Getaway, 2009 movie. It stars Mila Jovovich, Steve Zahn, Chris Hemsworth.
Free on Tubi, probably.
It's on Stars. So if you have Stars, you can stream it. Otherwise, I'd go looking on YouTube like we always recommend. Whereas, of course, you'll be able to find Lilo and Stitch on Disney Plus.
Stars is a channel you get free when you like fill up your gas tank. They just give you like a month of Stars.
Well, sometimes I feel like I have Stars and sometimes I feel like I don't. Like, because sometimes I'm on Paramount, but I'm watching a Showtime movie. And I'm like, I don't remember subscribing to Showtime.
Showtime and Paramount is the same. I think the same. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. So the movies that you're looking for, if you haven't seen it, watch Forgetting Sarah Marshall. You can find that on streamers. We've also got Lilo and Stitch and A Perfect Getaway as we head back to Hawaii next week. This is going to be fun. I'm looking forward to this one, guys. I'm looking forward to this one also because I kind of like Lilo and Stitch and I'm interested to see how far Ryan goes. And the only thing is, I know I have seen A Perfect Getaway and I remember it like not being terrible, but also not being great. I think it could be quite an entertaining watch.
I think you're miscalculating because Steve Zahn elevates
everything that he's in.
He's in Silo now.
No spoilers, but okay. I mean,
He plays the Silo.
He's the Silo. I'm waiting for the end of Silo so I can just watch the entire season with Mrs.
He's the strong Silo type.
Yeah, you son of a biscuit. But the other show I'm really interested. Everyone is buzzing about it. Is Severance. Mm-hmm. I never did watch the first season, but everyone's been talking to me about it, and now the second season's coming out. Ryan's face is a picture, but I've heard nothing but incredible things. So.
You don't seem thrilled.
No, I'm gonna watch it at some point.
Oh,
if it gets an ending.
Yeah.
I think they do have that in mind. Yeah, I think.
Yeah, but who knows if Apple can't? Like, I just can't go to another show.
That's their big. It's like their biggest fucking show right now. Yeah. So who knows?
Yeah, but 13 people subscribe to that service. So
season 3 is going to come out in 2048. So
yeah, it's only been
perfect.
There's been a 3-year gap between them. All right, so guys, so if you want to join in and watch the movies along with us, we'll be talking about them next week. A Perfect Getaway, Lilo and Stitch, and if you want to rewatch it as well, Forgetting Sarah Marshall. As always, if you are watching us on YouTube, thank you. We really appreciate it. But do us a favor if you haven't subscribed. Hit that notification bell. We turn up every Monday. Send it to someone that you might like movies, or just jump in the comments and tell us everything that we are doing wrong, because that's what people like to do on the internet. Don't forget, you can also find us on our Facebook page, The United States of a Movie. You can find me as Ollie Pettigrew or That Englishman in Texas, where usually I'm talking about all things Texas, but usually on Mondays I'll get into talking about movies as well. Will, he loves movies. Oh my goodness, if you start following Will on TikTok, it's probably going to be banned by the time you watch this episode. So maybe. So we'll see what happens with that, because like honestly, I just saw that like literally before we logged on, TikTok's like, no, we'll just shut down. But for now, you can find him as Entitled Millennial. But if not, I'm sure he'll move over to Instagram.
I'm on YouTube. I'm on Blue Sky. I'm at your back door. I'm everywhere. You can find me.
But Will does have an incredible collection of movies. He's like sort of like the Smithsonian of Blu-rays and 4Ks and Steelbooks. But he also will get into movies you maybe never heard of. It's a great place to go and find about movies that you maybe want to add to your repertoire. Ryan, on the other hand, is an incredible designer. You can find his designs as Rhino Digital where you can. He's been banned from everywhere else on the internet for being too good at his job. But
I've done it. Yeah. I'm launching a meme coin. You can subscribe to that.
It's called Hoaktua.
Oh God, Hoaktua 2.0. This one is, I assure you, is real.
But yeah, Rhino Digital, RYNO Digital. Outside of that, guys, from Ryan, from Will, and from me, as always, thanks for joining us for this episode of the United States of a Movie Podcast, and we will see you next time.